Okie dokes. Cool. Okay, welcome to, so today we'll be taking a deep dive into community outreach. This is something that we've, in the monthly Treekeeper Network chats, we've often talk about community outreach. Oh, somebody.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Emma. Hiya.
Hello. Hi. Sorry
Good to
about
have
that.
you. No problem. If you don't mind, I'll just mute you for now, but you will be opportunity to speak later. Cool. Okay. So yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. We'll be looking at how to engage people with your tiny forest. Some different. Oh, there's another person joining. So different. Yes. So different ways to engage people with your tiny forest. Okay, so throughout this webinar, we'll have some learning slides where we'll be talking from our experiences and our research, and we'll sort of sharing our ideas with you of what you can do for community outreach. Then there'll also be some reflection slides where we encourage you to use the Word document that we emailed before, and that you can also find in the chat. And yeah, that will help you link the learnings to your specific situation and goals. And then there'll also be some moments to share your thoughts and reflections and ask any questions that you might have. So yeah, firstly, we have a very dense slide, but we'll try and break it down for you. This is a sort of overview of all the different methods of community outreach that you might want to get started with. And we can, so firstly, I'll talk about sort of word of mouth, and not to, I think it's easy to overlook this one because we think we want to engage like everyone in the area, but actually it's incredibly valuable to engage your personal network and the people you come across in your sort of daily or weekly goings about. That's an incredibly valuable network to begin with. And so just mentioning the tiny forest to them and inviting them along to any activities you want to do in the tiny forest is not to be overlooked. So asking your friends or neighbours or anyone you kind of cross paths with. And yeah, that might be out when you're out and about in your community, or you can put yourself out and about with the express intention of engaging people. And this is what one of our community engagement managers, who's called Sam, is very good at. She goes with a table and puts herself in sort of community centres and shopping centres, and has sort of flyers and sign-up sheets and meets with a lot of people that way. And if that's something that you'd feel confident doing, then feel there's an idea to do that. But I'd just say that with that point, you'd definitely want to be careful or mindful of your safety. We wouldn't encourage you to go out and do that by yourself, because that could have risks. So if you have a friend to go out with, then that would make that a lot safer. And over to Divya. Oh.
Yes, thanks, Anya. So we've covered the green part of the word of mouth, and I'll just move on to the yellow bit up on top. So that's like the bit of a digital one. Again, with community outreach, there's just not one silver bullet. So actually, it's about trial and error and trying to find out what works for you and your community. So it needs to be like tailor-made for your people and your local situation. So that's why there might seem that there are a lot of elements over here, but it's just about giving ideas and figuring out what works for your community. So digital outreach is another one that we usually try for our events, especially because our especially in terms of capacity, because we are very few people in the team. So digital is a good way of reaching out to a wider network of audience in a shorter span of time. So that kind of is a space saving solution for us. So again, you can use any, WhatsApp groups. If you have a neighborhood WhatsApp group, that's a good place to kind of advertise your event, or just call them over, like whenever you're heading to the tiny forest, to kind of come and meet you there. Or if you're a tree keeper who has that kit, then you can, invite them to have like a certain time stay in the forest. So one of the ways we try to do it is through Facebook, because again, I know that not everyone is on social media, but that is one other channel that you could explore. So we try to look for keywords that has the name of your area, or look for like, your local allotment groups or local eco groups and things like that on social media. And you can kind of use that to kind of post your events out there. So that is a good way for reaching out to a large group of audience. And there's also the neighborhood, next door neighbor apps, and other apps that helps connect people. So those are also good ways of trying out. But I would also add this one cautionary statement that, yes, not everyone is on digital media, or they may not have access to it, or they may choose not to be on it. So again, we have to be aware that there is a group of audience that we might be missing out if we focus on solely this. But this again is one area that you could tap into and can have a large outreach as well. Anya?
Thanks. Yeah, it's something that can really grab people's attention if you're posting on internet, like social media groups, or if you're emailing groups whose email addresses you found on maybe their website. Something that can really grab people's attention and communicate your messages, flyers or posters, so of a colourful design with sort of relevant pictures or sort of standout keywords like tiny forest, 17th of February, and those can be sent into digital file over email, or posted on the social media pages, or put up as physical copies around your neighborhood. So community centres often have a public notice board. There's also parish council, city council notice boards on sort of really places around your community that have a high footfall that a lot of people will see, maybe outside shops, in the newsagents and the pharmacy window, the telephone poles, wherever you can think to put a poster. That's yeah, just some ideas. But one consideration with doing that is definitely best to ask permission if you're going to start plastering a poster anywhere. I know that telephone poles, that it is often controlled, but it depends on the council, but sometimes they have restrictions on putting posters up, so best to check in your local area what's allowed. So yes, but often sort of shops will be very happy to put one up in their window for you. Yeah, and phone calls are also a really powerful tool. So instead of going around all the community centres with your posters, it might be easier for you to call them up and say, do you have a notice board where I could put a poster up? And they might say, yeah, in fact, just send me over the digital file and I'll print it for you and put it up, is an option to you to explore. But yeah, these are all just ideas, and whatever we'll work through them in the following slides. So for now, I'd like to direct your attention to your worksheet, and yeah, reminder that it's in the chat if you need to download it. And yeah, these questions should be on the worksheet, so I can go back to the other slide so you can have a look again to prompt your ideas. But I'd like you to write down 3 outreach methods you feel comfortable with doing, and that can help remind you that that's something that you can always return to, and you might do most of the time. I'd also challenge you to write down one outreach method or a few outreach methods that you feel less confident about doing. Maybe having a phone call with someone strikes fear into your heart. And so I'd like you to write those down as well, and then circle whichever of those ones you feel less confident with, ones that you'd like to work on. Yeah, I'll give you a few moments for that. And if you have any questions, then please do ask. Okay, is that enough time for everybody? Would anybody like to share which outreach method they feel they'd like to try, and build your skills up towards, or gain confidence doing? Yeah, Alex.
Sorry, I was muted. So one of the things I was thinking I could do in the future would be I could probably do some sort of social media stuff, sort of advertising a bit, or sort of posting about on social media, maybe trying to get sort of WhatsApp groups, trying to get people to join those, and then sort of notify people via that sort of stuff. I think that's something I could probably certainly do in the future, I think.
Cool. Yeah, private WhatsApp groups are a really good way to sort of keep to organize. If you have a group, if there's a few people that you want to keep in contact with, then you can kind of keep that conversation going as a group. Cool, thanks. And yeah, with relation to any of those ideas, I'd like to remind you that we're here to help. So if you want any sort of training or guidance on sort of how to make posters, or promotional materials for if you want to do a stall in your sort of local community centre, or any creative ideas you have, then just get in contact with us and we'll be glad to help with supporting you with any of these things. Okay, so here is an overview of something that we're going to look at next, and kind of break down our approach for how we do community outreach. So this came to me after a very long day at work, and it was my creative brainchild. So we're going to sort of look at what your motivations are for doing community outreach, why you want to engage people and what you want to get out of engaging with people, and then also look at where that meets what the people who you want to engage with might want, what they might get out of volunteering with you or coming to your event. And then we'll also look at how you can kind of bring together sort of yours and their motivations through communicating well about what you're offering. Yeah, so sort of finding out other people's motivations, what might motivate them to come to your event. We'll look at how we can do sort of research or feedback to ask people what they might want, and that can be a really useful tool for making sure you're offering something that will attract people. And then, yeah, looking at how communicating your motivations, yeah, the outreach methods that you use, whether that's digital or poster based or just word of mouth, how you can effectively communicate what you're offering. Yeah, so using, would you like to speak to this slide, Divya?
Yes, so yeah, I mean, I love Anya's brainchild there. So it kind of brings together the different elements that we need to kind of pay attention. This again, it's about attracting a lot of different people to your event. So not everyone would be motivated by the same kind of reason. So it's just, trying to find out the different motivating factors so you can kind of play on the words so that, you can attract people who might be interested. Like, for example, some people might want to just find a fun space where they could have, entertain their toddlers, or there might be someone who is studying and they want to try out some of their citizen science skills, or, build some green skills in the process and things like that. So there are a lot of different people who are motivated by different things, or some who just want to spend time in nature. So it could be as simple as that, or to anything else. So just trying to find that. So yes, we can't cover all of these in one flyer, but just having those little glimpses here and there can kind of attract different people to your event. So again, how are you communicating? So again, if it is a flyer, just thinking about the language, and if you're using like a simple language, is it eye-catching? Because there is a lot of attention grabbing information out there for people. So in that noise, your flyer or your event has to kind of pop out and get their attention. So something like that can be very helpful. So just trying to think about, is there something that people would notice, or is there something that is easy to understand? Or even thinking about, is there a particular, are there people speaking other languages in and around your community? Just trying to have your flyers translated in those languages, just to attract people from those communities as well. And how visible is your activity? So again, if you're having this activity at a tiny forest, for example, just having a flyer put out there so people passing through that know that, okay, this is a forest and there is an event happening there. So just about visibility, as Anya mentioned earlier, footfall. So think about where people hang out in your neighborhood and trying to make your event visible in those spaces. Also, what kind of imagery and language you're using to promote the volunteering event. Again, when it comes to imagery, just having pictures of what your event would look like can also make people comfortable. So if you talk about citizen science event in the tiny forest, people don't know what that is, or they don't know what to expect, or they don't know if they will fit in with this group or with this event. So, we can help you with getting some really good imagery that talks about what the event might look like. Or if you have some from your own group, you can use those just to give people an idea of what to expect when they come there. And also representative imagery. So a lot of people feel comfortable when they see people who look like them represented in the imagery. So they kind of feel safe that, okay, this is a welcoming space that encourages people like me to be a part of it. So just paying those little attention to those details can kind of take you a long way in making a good outreach flyer, for example, and using the most appropriate method. So, like it depends on your local community if they are, what is the method that is appropriate for your lot. So for example, if there is a big school around, then it might be a good idea to reach out to the school and ask if they could spread the message through the parenting app that there's an event happening, or you could directly liaise with the school and invite them over and have the children participate in the event. So yeah, depends on what method works for your target audience.
Thanks. Okay. So I'd like to direct your attention to your worksheet again and give you a minute to write down, why do you want to engage other people with your tiny forest? So this is an exercise in sort of identifying your own motivations, and yeah, it will lead towards hopefully your outreach sort of serving you as much as it's serving the people in your community, because it needs to bring you joy, and you need to enjoy it as much as other people. Okay, that's been a minute. So here are some possible ideas that you might have come up with, or that you feel relate to you. I think a lot of people are drawn to tiny forests because they feel really passionately about the environment and want to support a sort of healthy environment and local wildlife in their area. So engaging people with the tiny forest is a way of supporting that sort of pro-environmental project, and yeah, to put your energy towards that. Some people might feel they're doing something for their community through doing that, or through holding a community group to link people together that that can really support people's well-being, and so that might bring you really that might be a strong motivation for you. You might have loads of knowledge you want to share. You might be a sort of expert entomologist, insect specialist as a hobby, or your sort of educational background, and you want to share that with your local community. You might want to meet people through it, feel part of a group, and to have company whilst doing your activities, and that also relates to perhaps you want to be doing weeding or supporting the environment, but you feel it's not safe for you to do it alone, so you feel you need people with you, which is absolutely valid. Or it might be, yeah, just for company, so it's a bit more fun. You might, yes, just want to be outside in nature. You might really enjoy doing citizen science and research. You might find that doing this citizen science and being outside benefits your well-being. And yeah, you might, having a community around you might sort of support this feeling that your volunteering efforts have a lot of value. Were there any points that I didn't mention, or that any of these that really resonate with people? Please do share now. What are your thoughts, or what did you write down? You can type it in the chat if you don't feel confident to speak. Yeah, Alex.
I mean, the biggest ones I sort of first thought of was people's mental health going to the tiny forest. That's a nice, obvious one. I think also the environmental awareness raising. I was thinking along the lines of sort of, if you get people to be interested in tiny forests, that hopefully means they get interested in the wild environment, and then they start wanting to protect it. That was the idea. I can see as a good benefit of it, both indirect and direct there.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's a good one too, because again, there is a lot of research that supports connecting with nature can lead to a lot of pro-environmental action as well. So yeah, it's a good one.
I guess it creates a sense of belonging, and it gives people a motivation. And in long term, it kind of encourages them to start a sustainable way of living, because that's how tiny forests might become more sustainable when people start to, join. And yeah.
Thanks.
Absolutely. I think that's one of our main intentions of having a community around tiny forest. Definitely. It's a good one.
Anybody else like to share? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. Okay, so next to reflect on is who do you want to engage with? And this will tie really closely to why you want to engage other people. So yeah, have a look again at your worksheet and think about who you want to engage with, and also what might motivate them to join you. If it's, for instance, if you're looking for, if you have a young child and you want to, you love going out weeding with them in the tiny forest, but you want some more social connection with that, then maybe you'd want to have you want to start a parent and toddler group. Or you'd want to attract other parents with young children. And so you'd have a think about how the people you want to attract might have very similar motivations to you, and so you can kind of highlight in your outreach efforts, you can highlight sort of what it is that you're offering. So a place to take your child and to meet other people can be really straightforward, but in other cases it might be a bit more complex, particularly with sort of environmental awareness raising. I really relate to this drive to want to connect people with nature who maybe don't naturally feel connected to nature, don't feel comfortable outdoors, and that can be a bit more tricky. So we'll go into that in another slide, but I'll give you a moment to have a think about your answers, and I'll be quiet for a moment. Yeah, so to add on to what I was saying about understanding your audience's personal motivations, you might not be able to tap into their personal motivations, and so just knowing where they look for information is a really good first step. So you can do really targeted outreach to say you see that the young people in your area don't go out very much, and so you might post your outreach efforts on a social media page where there are a lot of young people that use it, and that will be more likely to cross their paths and get their attention. So next, I'd like you to think about what kind of activity you would like to offer. This will tie in really closely to what your motivations are, what you would enjoy offering, what you want to get out of the activities, what you want to share in the activities, and then I'll give a moment for you to think about that. Whoa. Timer. Would anybody like to share what sort of activity they'd like to offer and what they think might motivate other people to come to that activity? Yes, Jen. Oh, sorry, my alarm's going.
I think that people like to do practical things. So either something like a bio blitz or some kind of citizen science, or those practical tasks of hands-on activities. I think that attracts a lot of people and gets them very interested. And I think that's really good for their sort of mental health as well, because they feel that they've achieved something at the end. So I think that whole side of practical hands-on stuff is a really good kind of activity.
Cool, thanks. Oh, Divya, you're muted.
Yeah, I think that was a really good idea, especially with a lot of people, they need to see tangible things. So instead of very abstract, like, oh, okay, we're going to like just have fun. Like, okay, what does that entail? Or so instead, you kind of break it down so they know what to expect. That's a good one too. Thank you.
And Alex, you had your hand up, yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe also sort of, I mean, I could probably do some sort of environmental awareness type things. Maybe also just sort of general meetups to do with it to teach you about the tiny forest. I think probably doing food and drinks is a really important one because that definitely motivates people to come to places. I think coffee and tea is really important for most people. I would say as to encourage people to go to places. I think maybe the other point I think is important is making sure there's actually a decent shelter there because obviously bad weather would probably put a lot of people off from going. So that's probably something you probably want, like some kind of like a tarpaulin or something type thing to sort of keep at least some of the area kind of out of the rain if that happens, like alternative backup plans, etc. I think.
Absolutely. Agree with the food as the motivating factor. Just having free biscuits in there can take us a long way, something that we have been pushing at our Tiny Forest event. But yeah, and also, yeah, the backup one, I think maybe reaching out to the councils would be a good idea for like gazebos or tents, as you said, Alex. I think, yeah, I mean, they're also looking for opportunities to engage with their local community. So, if you can tell them to kind of get along some bits, then yeah, I think it's a good one to kind of rope them in as well. Good idea.
That's a really good point. The council often do have sort of gazebos that they're very happy to lend to community events. I know at one of our community events, I took along a tarpaulin and just hung it up with just a stick in the middle and some guide rope. So it's kind of two routes. You can do it a bit makeshift or get some help on board. Cool, thanks everyone. Yeah, so now we'll talk a little bit about the importance of considering equity, diversity and inclusion when doing your outreach and planning your events.
Yeah, I think this is something that like it's like a filter that we can always wear. So the EDI filter kind of helps look at things in a little more depth and a little more meaningful way. I feel just making sure that everyone feels inclusive. So that is quite important, especially when you're having a community event, that everyone feels safe, everyone feels respected, and yeah, it's creating that comfortable and safe space for your people is quite important. So again, I won't be going into the depths of what is equity, diversity, inclusion, but then yeah, I love these dot diagrams that kind of summarize what we're trying to say. Again, equity is again making sure that everyone is treated equally with respect, and if there are some reasonable adjustments that could be made. Maybe if someone who can't read small letters, you could print out your activity sheet in larger font size, for example. Some simple considerations like that can actually take you a long way in terms of making it a very successful event. And then when it comes to diversity, again, engaging people from diverse, walks of life is quite important. Just to increase the experience of the group and, getting to learn different perspectives and different ways of looking at things, and also attracting a lot of different knowledge and skills to your group as well. So maybe in these events, you might come across someone who loves mushrooms, for instance, and that could lead into your next activity during autumn, and you can have like a little mushroom hunt in your tiny forest, or so it's nice to kind of get diverse people, because you're getting this rich knowledge and experience into your group. So it's kind of good for the overall just health of the group as well. And again, inclusion. So just making sure that everyone feels included and heard. So it might be a good idea to just at your event just talk about if there are any adjustments that people might need, like if there's someone who can maybe not understand English, so is there a different way that you could communicate with them, or just having that little talk so people know that they could approach you if they need some kind of adjustment, can kind of make it quite accessible as well. So can we go to the next slide, please? So again, this I love this diagrammatic representation of EDI, because it kind of takes into account the different elements of it. And for me, I kind of look at it as a spinning wheel. So even if you kind of rotate the inner wheel or the outer wheel in any direction, you kind of have these intersectionalities also coming in. So there's like overlap of different things. So again, in the inner circles are things like age, gender, ethnicity, mental or physical ability. All these are things that are, again, protected characteristics. And then you also have diversity in terms of people's education, their work experience, religion, income, language. So all these different things kind of come together, and that kind of makes it a rich and diverse audience. So just something to keep in mind when you're doing your outreach. So just in terms of the material that you use, like maybe not using too small a font size, or as I said earlier, like if you have people from different ethnicity or people who speak different languages, just translating your flyers in different languages can kind of get in a whole bunch of people you might have not otherwise interacted with. And also, again, thinking about where these people hang out. So if you're trying to engage maybe a particular religious group, maybe if there's a temple or a mosque or a church or something that, that they congregate regularly, that might be a good place for you to, reach out to and put your flyers up to kind of engage that group of people. So yeah, just thinking about these kind of helps. So it's not, once you start looking at it, it kind of becomes a habit. So it kind of making it inclusive for one group can make it inclusive for everyone. So, everyone feels comfortable. So yeah. And yeah, any other questions if you have around this, please feel free to.
Cool. Yeah. And yeah, to sort of add to that, it's sort of links back to sort of the audience that you want to engage with. Think you can think about where are sort of inclusive spaces, accessible spaces for them to receive information. Kind of links back to what we were talking about with sort of posting on the right Facebook group for who you want to attract. And yeah, extends to, for instance, if you want to be welcome sort of diverse audiences, then yeah, you need to consider where everybody goes and where they'll receive information about your event.
Sorry, and I just thought about another thing. Another
Sure.
good way to look at it is think about an event where you felt comfortable and happy, and think about the things that made you feel that way, and try to recreate that in your event. So that might be an easy way to kind of connect it in a real time sense, I think.
Okay, and now we'll have a look at the worksheet again and have some time to reflect on one idea. But if you would just write down one idea for how your outreach efforts can reach a wider audience. So maybe something you haven't considered before this call. Maybe you've thought, yeah, I can put a poster in my local shop, but you hadn't thought, oh, I can put a poster in my local church as well. Yeah, so write down one idea of, or more, of something that's kind of can broaden your catchment area, broaden your net. And whenever anyone's ready, please do share your ideas. Either post in the chat or you can unmute yourself and share with us. Yeah, Alex, please.
I did think one thing might be useful. I know where I live, Dunstable has a sort of local Facebook group that often tells lots of things that are happening in the area. Funnily enough, I think that's how I found out about Earthwatch and Tiny Forest in the first place, talking about the sort of planting event for it from that. Basically, my mum was looking through Facebook and she saw that looks interesting because it's also to do with environmental stuff, which I would have been interested because I hadn't heard of Earthwatch and do with Tiny Forest before that. So maybe I could post about stuff to events to do with that because that's certainly how I found out about it in the first place.
Cool. Okay. Cool. If nobody else would like to share, then we can move on to or is there someone in the chat? Share with WhatsApp groups of volunteer groups. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Whatever networks are available to you, then. Yeah, cool. So having a think now about reflective practice. You might not have heard this term before. It's a bit of a technical term for essentially just taking some time and some space to think about how things are going, how things have gone, and there are many different ways to reflect. You might find having a pen and paper is helpful, to journal, or typing on your laptop, making bullet points, or drawing out mind maps like this one, or maybe chatting to someone, chatting to yourself, recording yourself chatting to yourself. But what you'll be doing when you're reflecting is essentially asking yourself questions of sort of what went well, maybe sort of someone turned up to your activity and you asked them, and they said, oh, I found out about this on the local wildlife conservation Facebook group, and so you can make a mental note of, oh, so it was really good that I posted on that group because it worked. So it's just really making a mental note or a physical note of your successes. And I'd really encourage you to focus on the positives and run with those. Sure, it's good to clock what didn't go so well as well, and that can build into what doing something differently next time. And also really important to reflect on how things made you feel. So if you sort of maybe posted on a local sports team and then you had a whole big sports team come along and you felt a bit out of your depth and overwhelmed and a bit intimidated by all of these big sporty people, then maybe that was something that didn't go so well because what you were looking for was to have a quiet, mindful time, and you need to change where you're doing your outreach efforts. So yeah, really focus on how things are making you feel. If you're enjoying what you're offering, what you're doing, is super important. And yeah, whilst you're reflecting, recommend doing it in a place that supports you to feel reflective and positive. So that might be comfortable at home, or it might be in the tiny forest, might be in a library, wherever you feel is a good space for you to reflect is where you should go. So here's an example of a sort of question you might ask yourself to support your reflective practice. Is can you you might try and think of a moment when you felt proud whilst on your tiny forest journey. Would anybody actually, yeah, if you maybe write that down on your sheet, or if anybody would like to share, then please do. Yeah, Alex.
I mean, probably quite simply seeing the trees, slide the first year and did well. I think we had quite low mortality, which is good. They survived despite having a small drought in June. So I was pretty pleased that they managed to sort of pull through.
That's great. And yeah, if you also note down what sort of methods of reflective practice you feel work well for you, or if there are any you'd like to try. So maybe journaling, or talking to yourself, or just sitting and peacefully reflecting.
Yeah, this is something that I am not really good at, especially with work. I just keep rushing from one task to another. I just don't take time to kind of sit back and think and process and reflect on things. So yeah, just having, or if you're like me, then yeah, just having some time put in there for this activity definitely helps. And yeah, this is me making a mental note.
We've had someone post in the chat that getting other people involved is a proud moment. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, can really relate to that. It's really, if you've put effort into inviting people along to a place and they do show up, it makes it all worth it.
Absolutely. And community engagement is hard. I mean, community outreach is not easy work, and that is something like big organization to small to individual people. It's always very hard because it is a busy time. I mean, people are busy with life and maybe care work or studies or work, anything. It's just really hard to get people, and I mean, the effort is worth it, but I just want you to be proud of yourself for trying, because it is definitely a hard thing to do. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. And yeah, with that, I recommend to set yourself low expectations of how many people might come up and come over, and really focus on the journey for you, and the small wins, what makes you feel good, and that's what really matters. It's not about how many people you can get to the tiny forest, it's about the journey that you go on, and yeah, and learning from the process as well. And that's where, particularly where the reflective practice comes in. Cool, that's everything that we wanted to share with you today. So just one last sort of reflection that's also on your worksheet is have a think about what is going to be your next step in your tiny forest community outreach journey. That might be to buy yourself a journal to scribble notes in for your reflective practice, or that might be to research what community groups there are in your local area and what platforms they use. Do they use WhatsApp or Facebook or email? Yeah, I'll give you a moment to think about that. And when you're ready, please do share your next step.
You're on mute, Anya.
Thanks. Just nattering away to myself. Yeah, I was just saying that we've had someone post in the chat to say the next step is putting posters and flyers in different places to try and reach more people. Fab. Yeah, I'll just say again that if you need or would like any support with designing those posters, maybe software ideas of what you could use, any pictures or images you'd like to use, or just would like to talk about it, then yeah, don't hesitate to get in touch because we'd love to help. Yeah, Alex.
I mean, probably quite simply, just basically work out what to do. Probably write that down, sort of figure out what kind of events I could organise, and how to do the community outreach, kind of specific to my area. I guess I think that's the sort of the first things I'm going to try and do.
Lovely. That's a good first step, always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yay. Cool. Thank you everybody for your time. Thank you and your attention. Thank you for listening. I hope you've got something from this and that got some new ideas, some new motivations, or identified your own motivations even. And yeah, thanks very much. So yeah, if you'd like to see the recording or have access to the slides, then drop us an email. We'll send those over. It's tinyforest@earthwatch.org.uk.
I think I can put that up in the Tiny Forest, the Tree Keeper playlist on YouTube, so we can put it up there so it's available for you to refer back to. And maybe in the chat we could, or in that we could link the presentation as well. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Cool. Yeah, and if you have any feedback, please let us know how you found this session, any what you liked about it, or what could have gone better. If there were anything you found difficult to understand, then please let us know. We'd definitely reflect on that and learn from it and adapt in the future.
And you're bang on time.
Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks so much to both of you for organising this. It's been really good. I mean, I think I've got better ideas like what sort of things I could do now. I was quite, I guess I was more unsure what to do, how to do it. It does seem quite, and does still seem kind of sort of daunting doing the community outreach type stuff. But it does seem a lot more possible and easier to do now. I think thanks to this.
Oh, lovely. Thank
Oh,
you.
thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks now.
Bye.
Bye. Good luck.
Bye-bye. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening and good luck with your journey.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye bye.